We'll be continuing our discussion surrounding waste management and circular economy today during session 2. However, before we proceed, I would like to invite Mr. Lance and Ms. Christine from the University of Philippines Marine Science Institute. These are the two researchers who will demonstrate their artificial intelligence technology surrounding microplastics. Thank you very much. I'll invite them to the stage.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So, it's an initiative with Holcim and One Earth, One Ocean. The design in itself was also endorsed by Solar Impulse Foundation. If you're familiar with them, they're the ones who designed that first plane, I think, that was also fully solar powered. And right now, they also do a lot of sort of like endorsements for other similar designs. So, I briefly mentioned this for us when this was being developed in Switzerland. We really wanted to make sure that there are three pillars on the project. So recovery is just one part, and I've mentioned this, and we've shown that to you. There's sorting that's involved. There are primary and secondary sorting. Anything that's recyclable goes to the MRF partner MRF facilities. Anything that's end of life, we use as an alternative fuel for used into co-processing. Now, I wanted to really point out that even recyclable materials have calorific value, right? It could still be used as an alternative fuel, but we don't do that because we need to respect waste management hierarchy. If anything is recyclable, we should bring it to the recycling facilities for them to repurpose, for them to recycle, upcycle. So it's really just the end of life or residual materials that goes for co-processing. Now we have the education as well. I do have samples of the teacher's manual and the comics. And then we have the science. The science I'd let Lance discuss a bit more. But we wanted to do this because we know that, as again, we can't manage something that we were not able to measure. So it's very important to have that data-driven kind of awareness and insights to be translated into policy. Okay, so I think just for an impact, because maybe there was a number of people who are asking what is the specific impact. So for recovery, it's over 80,000 kilograms. The last I checked with our database, it's almost 90,000 kilograms. And on average, it's 25% of the mix is plastics. Now, it depends on the seasonality, right? And then we also organize some coastal cleanups. On the education part, there are two parts. One part was the welcome aboard sessions, which you did, which is more experiential. In fact, there are two types. The one that you did was hop and learn and experience, which is just docked. The other part is ride out, wherein guests could actually help sort the materials. So we do that as well. But the more formalized structure is the one with the toolkits. And we entered a partnership with the Department of Education. I think for some governments, it's the Ministry of Education. It took a while, but really wanted for them to have an endorsement and an approval so that it could be put into the public schools and be rolled out. And then we have 150 researchers and educators across the country, not just in Manila, that we had capacitated. The AI models will be discussed by Lance. And we've had 350 microplastic samples. And right now, our partner scientists are having all of these findings turned into journal publication. Okay, so the other part is, you can see, the vessel we saw is just in Manila. This is the map of the entire Philippines. We felt the need to capacitate not just the people in Manila. So even if we can't bring the vessel physically to the other parts of the Philippines, we wanted to capacitate them by partnering with our experts at the University of the Philippines Marine Science Institute. And the way we were doing it is we have this young educators. We had several legs. We had the pilot in 2022, and then we had the regional call from 2023 until 2024. And you can see from here, we tried to really have a representation from all over. The Philippines is 7,641 islands. If we wanted to have like young researchers and educators equipped to conduct research and baseline that are reliable. But I think you can also see in the third bullet that we also wanted them to be able to effectively communicate the findings, because the scientists have always been sort of like said that, oh, but you remain in your ivory tower, you're the only ones who read your messages, right? Okay. So I'll probably stop here. But this is just what's coming in next. There's a plastic conference that's going to be held in July 24, 25 at the University of the Philippines. Some experts from the Netherlands and Japan and some parts of the world are coming in as well, but many are the researchers from the country. We've also had a lot of capacity upskilling for representatives of the government so that they're also at par to be able to really understand what the problem is. And then I think, so we have copies of this. We are estimating that maybe 4,000 plus students would be able to learn from this, because so far we've trained 63 teachers from 20 schools. So we've just started really rolling this out. And hopefully that's the impact. And now I'll turn over to Lance.
Hello. Good afternoon. So I'll be presenting the results from so far that we've shown you the AI already. So we just want to show you what's the impact of the Circular Explorer in terms of the data that was already given to us. Okay. So for the last 2 years that we are working with the Circular Explorer, we actually tried to think about what would be the impact of the Circular Explorer in Manila Bay. So starting with the problem in the Philippines, of course, the Philippines is tagged as that one of the top in contributors of plastics in the ocean. So these are a lot of studies already saying that maybe the Philippines is top one, but we have not the data to actually validate this. So that's why in 2022 we actually developed a website to gather all of the baseline data so that we can actually formulate and locate where are the areas that are not that do not have yet data. So as you can see that in the northern part of the Philippines right now, there's still a lack of data. So we actually wanted to focus more of the efforts or recommend some policies so that we can create more data from that region. The problem is in that part of the region, the Philippines, is there's a mountain that's blocking the storms, of course, coming into the Philippines. That's why this Sierra Madre mountain range is very important, but it also hinders us from collecting the baseline data in that area. So the problem why we developed the AI model is that manual counting is actually very difficult. So when you go to the beach, you're going to have to count the plastics in a about 100 meters. So it's already in three sites. So it's going to be very tedious to do that. Okay. So we also so that's why we developed the AI model initially for the drone this one. Yeah. So it makes it easier for us to count the plastics on the beach. So that was the initial base model for the models for the Circular Explorer. So coming in with the Circular Explorer, we actually wanted to do two things. So the Circular Explorer is equipped with a conveyor belt. So we also wanted to do was to monitor with the video an account for the how much plastics they were hauling, and as well in the directly over the water. And then in addition to this, we also wanted to know where is the plastics going from the Pasig River. So we deployed GPS trackers using the vessel, and then we tracked where they were going. For the data gathering of the microplastics, we actually used three methods. We have the underway collector. So it is installed in the vessel, which is collecting the surface water. and then also the plankton net and the mandato. So we were able to collect majority in those areas, the one in the black, where it is directly affected by the mouth of the Pasig River. So for the training of the plastics, we actually identified 16 types of plastics for the macroplastics and then 3 types for the microplastics. Yeah. So these are the results. For the macroplastics, how we're doing it is when we take the videos, we actually break them down into frames. So the frames is such that the plastic in the conveyor belt is not seen anymore in the next frame. So that's how we're quantifying the plastics. For the so you've already I've already shown this on the board in the demo, but this is basically what if it works for video feed, so it also works like that. Yeah. So as you have seen in the video, there are still limitations, or there are still some plastic particles that are not yet detected by the AI, which can be further developed using more data. For the microplastics, we have actually, once it's processed in the laboratory at Bolinao, we actually subject it to Nile red staining and then try to have an AI count how many microplastics are in the filter paper. So the problem with just seeing this with image is that you don't actually see the very tiny particles on the, we call this, the filter paper. So that's what we wanted to assist, because counting the microplastics is actually very tedious when it comes to manual counting. So as you can see in the first one, this is a sample from the Manila Bay. So there's really a lot of really small microplastics that's really tedious to count when it comes to doing the manual count ourselves. That's why that was our motivation for developing the AI. Okay, for the results so far, so we've seen that with the videos we collected, it goes in parallel with the study of Le Breton, wherein there's more plastics coming into the water during the rainy season. So the rainy season in the Philippines is actually starting this June or August, and then coming into the end of the year. So there's really a lot more input from the videos recorded in July and August of last year than the other videos given to us. So with also in partnership with the collectors or the trash sorters, um Geocycle, sorry. They also gave us some data for the trash that they had collected. So, as you can see, the ones in orange is the amount of plastics collected during those periods that they were collecting, and the green is when there was a lot of organics. So, as you can see, as the year rolls around, the number of plastics actually is much more dense around before the rainy season, and much more of the organics is being collected together with the plastics during the rainy season. Okay, for the results and findings, as you can see in the first one, so there's really a lot more of the wrappers floating around in the Manila Bay. So together with that is the lids and caps, and then as well the fragments, and then the bottles, and then footwear, slippers, and shoes. So, it might be there's some bias depending on the type of categorization that we used, but more or less, majority of the footage that we collected shows that there's really a lot of thin flexible plastics in, which of course is affected by the buoyancy of the water. So we might look into giving this data as well to the government so that they can, of course, address the issue that we can target more of the wrappers just to significantly reduce the amount of waste going into the Manila Bay. Okay. So for the trackers, we can see that from the mouth of the Manila Bay, the trackers actually went in different areas. Yeah. And then from there, it actually the trackers that went down went to the area where the CCP complex is. So that is the one here, right? And then sorry, it didn't show, but most of the trackers actually went near the CCP area complex and near the reclamation area there. So which means this project is actually um, the circular explorer is actually where it should be because it's intercepting the plastics from the Pasig River. Okay. So from that we've actually from the manual counting of the videos there we have counted 51,000 plastics on footage. For the microplastics, majority of the sites where we collected have a lot of fibers. So fibers come from our polyester clothes or other uh, fibers or textiles that have polyester or thin, flexible fibers that are in them as well. So these are actually being brought around by the water quality. So the water quality actually correlates with where the microplastics are found. So we expected this, but there is more microplastics in Manila Bay than in other parts of the Philippines like Palawan and in the Verde Island Passage. And then for fish, so there is a part of the Manila Bay north of the of where we are, where there is a what do you call this fishing industry. Then we actually got the fish there and then quantified what the microplastics in the fish. So what we saw is that there was a lot of microplastics in the gills and as well in the guts of the fish. So which can be translated into policy when we are going to talk with the before, of course, in the cleaning of the fish, which makes it less prone to health concerns. Okay. So for the final findings, actually, if the Circular Explorer was running throughout the year for 4.5 hours, it's actually not as effective because it's only one vessel. So we actually calculated that with the um, estimation of Mayer, you actually need about 4,500 Circular Explorers to catch up or to mitigate the amount of plastics coming from Pasig River. Yeah. So aside from that, we also have had our partners from Malaysia. So they brought in trainees, and then they were now partnering with us with their microplastic studies. Yeah. So moving forward, we actually we're rolling out in development of an citizen science application that's helping us connect more data into the website that I showed you. So yeah, and it also helps us improve the AI. So this is the design of the AI of the application that we're developing. And then there's also a microplastics facility that we are actually building with Holcim in the lab so that we can train more people using the microplastics. So that is it for me. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your informative and relevant presentation. So, as we discussed earlier, we'll now move on to session 2, from pollution to solution, and this will be gratefully led by our engineer Angela Aquino, the project manager for the Pasig River Plastics Digital Twin Project from the ASEAN Development Bank. Angela, the mic is yours.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone. Are you still awake? All right, because if you're not, we're gonna dance. But since you said yes, then we're not gonna dance. Do you want to dance? All right. So, hi, good afternoon again. Um, so, yeah, so I'm gonna present about what we're doing right now in ADB as the plastics group of ADB. So just I'm not sure if it's a fun or but it's a fact. So I'm in my Filipiniana right now because we have a sort of a culture or practice in the plastics group of ADB, wherein during a forum on the second day, if we will present, so we're supposed to wear this. So even though my plastics group are not here, but I'm here with our partner in the technology. So AROP, we have here our technology partner AROP and our community level partner Rivercycle. So in case they tell my group that I did not wear Filipiniana, so I wore Filipiniana today. So what is the Pasig River Plastics Digital Twin, and why did we propose this project, or why are we doing this right now? All right, so this is the Pasig River, as mentioned as said in the title of this slide. So as you can see, this stretch right here is to the 27-kilometer Pasig River, and it starts with Manila, and then goes down to Makati, and then Makati, and then Mandaluyong, then Taguig, and then I think it passes through other LGUs as well. Yeah, Pasig and then Taguig. And as you can see, there are other major tributary rivers. So we have the San Juan tributary river, the Marikina, Taguig, and Pateros tributary rivers. And aside from that, we have 19 minor tributary rivers. So this Pasig River is one of the most popular rivers in the world because, as mentioned earlier, so the Philippines produces, and also we import products from other countries, and we also export them as plastics. So we're trying to follow what Singapore is doing, but I guess we're doing it in the wrong way. So I guess we have to produce items that are actually of value to other peoples and not polluting the environment. So the river faces challenges, as we mentioned earlier, and which affects the river's ecology and living conditions of the people living in the banks. So it passes through a lot of cities, and through its tributary rivers passes through other cities that are far north, like Quezon City. So it's really polluting to a lot livelihood of other people. So supposedly there's a video, but for the interest of time, we're not gonna play that. So the ADB Korean Hub proposed a Discover Space Challenge, and in this challenge, that is where AROP won for this Pasig River Plastics Digital Twin project. So how are we gonna do this digital twin of Pasig River? So this is the architecture of the development of the plastics digital twin. First, we need to understand what data is available and where can we get this data. So, for example, the base map like GIS maps, hydrology model, this is usually from the DPWH, the weather data from Pag-asa, community volunteer data, usually these are from the LGUs that our community level partner helps us to gather, GIS data, documents, sensor data, and also data, flood data from MMDA, and water level data from other national government agencies. So once we have all those data, we integrate them in a way that can be visualized through the Terrier JS platform. And then right now, Rivercycle checks and sorts the plastics manually, which is, as mentioned also earlier, this is a very tedious process. So we want to use cameras and smart technology to help to do this automatically. So we're actually currently doing the machine learning for a specific use case of this project. But since we just started 2 months ago, actually, this is our third month, this July, we don't have that much high accuracy for now, but depending on the use case that we will decide on later on, we will use the whatever our target end user is for this project. So their targeted use case will be used in the machine learning of these cameras or this AI. So with that, so we can track the kinds of plastics that are in the river in real time. And then currently, yeah, that's why we're training the AI machine. So unfortunately, I'm sorry, I forgot to add the photo, but it looks like what UPMSI showed earlier. So these are our primary or targeted stakeholders for this digital twin project. So we categorize them into three in our stakeholder mapping. Those are the primary key users, data contributors, and then the research capacity for continuous and sustainable operation. So the number one are the primary key users. These are the ones who can make use of the digital twin in waste collection, processing, disposal policy making, among many others. So this includes DNR, MMDA, the SUD, and the LGUs. And then we also have the data contributors and technology enablers. So these are the national government agencies who produce and collect the data that we need for the digital twin. But the DNR, MMDA, and LGU also produce the data that are vital to the digital twin. And then the research capacity for continuous and sustainable operation. So this includes actually UPMSI, the projects in universities that are funded by the Department of Science and Technology. An example of that is Project eSmart. We also coordinated with the Philippine Space Agency and other projects and other professors and scientists in the universities. So this is important to ensure that we continue refining the technology and methodology in creating the digital twin, which allows the system to sustainably operate over time and as demands and use case changes. Right, so the digital twin will bring together data both from the formal and informal sectors and integrate it with weather models to consider how wind and rain affects the weather and waste flow. So with this, we can better understand the behavior of plastic pollution along Pasig River, its tributaries, and the small creeks. So through different seasonal and weather conditions. So this will help us identify the proper action to mitigate marine pollution. So the digital twin will predict how plastics move along Pasig River. So I'm not sure if you guys noticed, since the Pasig River is like a connection between the Laguna Lake and Manila the Bay. So when it's high tide, the water goes into Pasig River from Manila Bay into Laguna Lake. And when it's low tide, the water goes from Laguna Lake to Manila Bay. So this is why Pasig River and Manila Bay has a certain salinity as well. So if we combine the data from river cycle and then the hydrology and flow models that we got from the national government agencies, so we can simulate the plastic removal strategies that can support data based on the targeted cleanup and collection efforts that can save the government time and money. So we can efficiently and effectively use the resources that the government has. And the goal of the digital twin is to create an optimized system that reduces plastic waste in the river effectively. Oh, right. So as I mentioned again earlier, the project actually officially launched in May 2025. We are currently in our third month, but already we through the amazing efforts of our technology partner Arup and our community level partner River Recycle, so we already have really good insights on the different aspects of waste management. Like as mentioned earlier in the plastic flow trend, so we noticed that a lot of the plastics are, for example, during summer, so people drink a lot of bottled water, right? And but these waste do not end up in the waterways because it's dry and it's stuck wherever we use or dispose it. But during rainy season, so these waste flow into the wastewater or the water streams and then contaminates our river. Another finding an insight here is in waste management. So the digital twin can be used for efficient and targeted cleanups for hotspots, and then the data can support the local government units in budgeting for their waste diversion strategies and waste processing budgets. And then for data governance, this is the most vital insight that we got. So whenever we request for data from the national government agencies or the local government units that who we talk to, they are a bit wary about sharing their data. So it's not that they don't want to share their data. It's about they're wary about how their data might be interpreted by the other agencies or by us once we analyze it. So the request usually is before we show the data to the public, we have to make sure to show the data to them first so that they could check. And if there are some outliers there, so they can explain to us what's happening there. However, the digital twin relies on open source data. So there's a lot to be done in data management for the digital twin as of now. And also, for example, a lot of the national government agencies, there are data that they're willing to share with us, but they're not that willing to be shared to um other projects maybe. So since the digital twin really relies on open source data, there's a lot of data sharing and collaboration, interagency collaboration there. The sorry, it's not in the right there. Interagency collaboration is necessary for long-term data and digital twin management because the digital twin relies on open source data so that it can be easily viewed by the people in real time. And then in data governance, on the use of the purpose of the digital twin. So as we mentioned, the DNR, this can help the DNR in identifying plastic sources and policy making. Like for example, which obliged agency maybe is which obliged agency has waste that ends up in Pasig River or whichever creek. So this can actually help our obliged enterprises maybe in their EPR schemes. And then for MMDA, because MMDA are the ones who do the cleanup in Pasig River and a lot of the tributary rivers. So it can help them target which places they should actually dedicate more budget or in the right time. For example, it's flooding, it's about to flood. So based on the data, for example, what's happening is that it's gonna rain a lot. So if it's gonna rain a lot in this area, where will most of the waste end up? So in advance, MMDA can take more people in certain areas to make sure that there will be no clogs in that area and prevent flooding in certain places in Manila because in Metro Manila because flooding is very apparent in the city, and that's because of the clogged drainage. So if the digital twin can help identify in advance where these could happen, so flooding can be prevented in different areas. And then, yeah, as mentioned earlier, so in the private sector, this can the digital twin can help in the CSR and EPR and other community help related projects of the private sector. All right. So that's it for the Pasig River Plastics Digital Twin. Are you still awake? Do you want to dance? All right. So, for our next speaker, so our next speaker is a serial founder because I was really surprised when I read his CV. He founded a lot of companies. So, he founded Poni Divers. He's also the CEO and founder of Poni Marine, and then the CEO and founder of Astari, and then the founder of Poni Foundation. So he's a very serial founder. So I am so happy um to introduce um Wong Thye Singh.
Afternoon, everyone. So my name is Thye from Poni Group. I'm from Brunei. Interesting introduction. Thank you. So I have started a few companies. I'll just quickly explain a few of them, and maybe you'll understand a little bit about why we're here and in this space. Maybe before I start, so we've actually been doing a lot of marine conservation programs, and we're in doing a lot of coral planting, artificial reef programs, and we've sort of found some ways forward in how we can scale up for larger projects, primarily with reef balls, with some sort of AI-based technology for monitoring as well. But when we started looking at this sort of sustainable waste space, it's been very challenging. There's a lot of interesting ideas. It's been interesting to learn from everyone here as well. I think yesterday and today, what everyone is doing. But really trying to find something that you could scale up with and make a big difference. I think that's been interesting to see what's possible. I'm not sure if there's a very big solution yet, Anyway, so I first started Pony Divers, 2009. So it was a diving center for tourism in Brunei. We very quickly moved on to water sports and team building, corporate team building at the islands. This was a year after. And by 2012, we started doing some commercial diving jobs, some marine construction, marine engineering. And I think by 2016, that was more than half our business. We're doing marine, some offshore support services as well. So we launched Pony Marine, Pony Ops. So we do military supply and military training, primarily around amphibious sort of operations. And Pony Foundation, so we're actually ongoing registering this right now. And a lot of our marine conservation, youth, and community projects will move over to the foundation. And Astari, which we just recently launched for sustainably related services, we started looking at some carbon projects, mangrove planting, some AI-based technology for different sustainable projects as well. So I think before I jump into what we're sort of doing, we're still in very, very early stages with sustainable waste. But I heard an interesting question yesterday. So I think somebody was asking, can CE can it be profitable? Is it actually a sustainable thing? So this is actually a really interesting study. This was by Dr. Simon Lockery from RMIT from Australia. So he came to Brunei 2 years ago. 2 years. 2 years ago. He did a presentation. So this is probably the largest food waste project in the world. They've spent over $40 million. There's a bit of sort of breakdown over there. But I think even prior to this or around the same time, they have an additional $50 to $100 million in funding. And so they're basically trying to halve food waste in Australia by 2030. And I'll bring this up because I think you guys should look into this. I think there are some questions around this. And some of the impact numbers that have done is pretty amazing. So I had lunch with him because I wanted to hear about his project, and I said, what should Brunei do? Because we're so late in the game, we're just starting in this. And he said research. He said research has been key for a lot of their progress. And you know how every time we talk about these big problems, we always say we don't know how much it's going to cost. It's going to cost a lot of money. So they actually figure out a price. They said it's going to cost them $135 million, $22 million a year until 2030 to fix the food waste problem by half, right? I'm not going to detail here, but basically they're looking at reducing, transforming, and engaging, so teaching. So all the same things everyone's doing. But one of the key things that they're doing is, some numbers over here first. I think you can't read it, but I think they've saved corporate companies about $60 million in 2023, households $2,500 each. So some good numbers over here. But one of the key things I asked them is what has been the biggest impact for you with what you're doing in Australia? He said, actually working with large companies like Unilever, all the big food processing plants. And he said it's not really so much about composting or recycling. It's really about taking the food that is still edible and upcycling it and repackaging it. And that has been so far creating value. So when you tell sort of businesses that they have to pay more to do something good, they don't want to do that. But when you tell them that they can earn more money and do something good at the same time, that's when everyone's interested. And that's how their buying has been. So they've been able to work with companies to create profit for them. And that's really how a lot of the numbers are starting to look really good in Australia. So I think that maybe answers the first question of, can it work? Yes, it can. And this is another question as well. So when I started going out down this sort of rabbit hole of, can CE work? Is it a nice option? Is it something, or is it one of those things that people talk about but never can actually do? And actually, when I was looking at this last year, I came across this article on BBC. I put the link down there, but if you just sort of type Japanese and Edo period and sort of circular economy, this article will pop up as well. But so it talks about Japan many years ago in the 1750. It has been done. Circular economy project civilizations have been done. It has worked. It has thrived for a couple centuries. And the key thing is they had to. There was a bit of a scarcity. They weren't trading. So they had to recycle. They had to upcycle. They had to watch what they're doing. And it worked. So I want to say that it can work as well for us, but we probably have to be pushed into it. And we've everywhere, from bottom up, from top down as well. And I think that's going to be happening a lot closer than we think. That future is coming very soon. So what it did is over there is, so they turned their clothes to pajamas, to nappies, to fuel. I think up there is a borrowed. We have some Japanese here as well that might tell me a bit more about this. But they collected cloth to make garments. They melted down their pots. They just reused everything. They were really forward thinking. They were actually, well, we can't do this anymore, but they were, if you cut trees, you punishable by death. Maybe that's what we need to make this happen, but that's what they did last time. And they pay people to plant trees. So this sort of civilization has worked. Another one, so when we come back to research as well, the question about research was, how effective is it? So this was something that I was following quite closely with the ocean cleanup. So they did this project. I think some of you are in this space, so you might know about this. So basically, they've identified 1,000 rivers that sort of give out about 80% of the river waste out of 100,000 rivers. So that's about 1%. So they're focusing all the efforts over there. And interesting enough, when I was looking at this closely yesterday, so about 20 of the rivers are here in Manila Bay. And where we are in Brunei, there's actually about 2 rivers on the Malaysian side as well. So we've been sort of thinking as well, how do we, do our part with the rivers over there as well? So I think this part is just basically say work smart. If we can apply this to CE as well, if we can sort of find out where the food waste is happening, we can really target our efforts. For that particular project, but in terms of any waste as well in the country. I think there's a video over here. Yes.
Our oceans are filling with plastic. But where does it come from? The answer? Rivers, primarily. Every day they carry not just water and sediments, but also lots of plastic into the ocean. There are more than 100,000 rivers on our planet, but not all of them contribute equally to the problem. Early efforts to map river plastic by many research groups, including the Ocean Cleanup, concluded that only a very small number of large rivers, perhaps as little as 10, are responsible for most of the pollution. This was determined by estimating the total amount of plastic pollution generated in each river basin. But not all plastic has the same chance of making it to the ocean. Variables such as climate, terrain, waste management practices, the distance plastic needs to travel to reach a river, and then the ocean are all of influence. By including these factors and the results from dozens of measurement campaigns, a much more nuanced picture evolves. More than 1,000 rivers are responsible for 80% of ocean plastic pollution, 100 times more than previously estimated. Instead of a few great rivers, we now believe that many rivers, including small rivers running through dense coastal cities in emerging economies, form the world's plastic hotspots. While the number of 1,000 rivers may seem immense, this is only 1% of all rivers included in the study. This means that a targeted approach could drastically reduce the world's river plastic emissions. The Ocean Cleanup has already begun working with governments and partners around the world to apply the right solutions to the right rivers and encourages others to take part. Together, we can clean our rivers and rid the world's oceans of plastic. Explore the 1,000 most polluting rivers and see how you can help at theoceancleanup.com.
So I'm not from the Ocean Cleanup, but it was a good video, so I wanted to play it. We obviously have as well One Earth, One Ocean. They're doing good things. There's quite a few organizations doing these things as well. Let's go into the next. Okay, so a little bit about us. I don't have a lot of time, but I'll quickly run through. So we started with beach cleanups way back in the day. We did the first international coastal cleanups in Brunei in 2011. First ghost net cleanups in 2013. So we've been scaling up a lot of our marine conservation work. So we started doing Ocean Week Brunei last year. So these are 9 events across 10 days. We involved over 1,000 people. We've had this year, we've had some of the royal family joining us as well. We have 6 or 7 ambassadors coming to support our efforts. much larger beach cleanups, and just a quick 1-minute video here of what we do for Ocean Brunei. A little bit audio again if you can, but it's just music. So you can see some numbers over there in terms of how many people are involved. So we have 10 government agencies supporting them last year. This year we have over 50. This Caronisa is over there as well. She's in here. So we know each other very well from Brunei. So one part of it, why we bring up Ocean Week Brunei, is because we've started collecting quite a bit of waste, ghost nets, we have beach cleanup. So we're thinking, what can we do? What can we do with that? Well, how can we educate people, and how can we scale up those efforts? So those are actually, that's one of the big reasons why I'm here. I'm hoping to hear, I've heard a lot from everyone. So if you have more solutions for us, please let us know. So something fun we started doing, this is definitely not scalable. This is a Talon machine or something. So one of our staff had an idea, let's say, let's buy it, a couple $100, let's try it out. So it's plastic bottles, turn into filament, 3D printed some of the items ourselves, and we turned them into reef balls and whale sharks. We were selling this with our ocean pledges, people that adopt the reef, adopt the coral, just something fun and educational to get the youths involved. In fact, it was maybe most of my staff were very happy to play with for a few days. They weren't really working when they came in. And we used the 3D printer as well, the bamboo. Some quick videos you can see. Looks quite nice. And then we have the whale sharks as well. So this is, I think, a bit more about education and awareness rather than having a big impact in terms of waste. A little bit about Brunei Reef Ball Program. So this is what we're doing in terms of scaling up. Our reef balls are great for fish homes, great for illegal bottom trawling. We work a lot with the schools. We've engaged over 8,000 youths now over the years. So something we're working right now, if anybody has experience with this, we are planning to, we met a couple companies from Singapore as well. We're looking to crush some of the glass waste because nobody does anything with the waste in Brunei. And we want to turn it to sand. We're going to put in our reef balls. We want to run some studies. Is that going to be better for the corals or not? We're not sure. We're going to try and find out next year. So Poni Marine, our commercial diving division, and engineering division. So Shell, they've actually just recently donated this to us. They're about 300, 500 kilos a piece. So we're going to be repurposing them for coral planting and maybe fish habitats as well. We're now in discussions with pipe companies, offshore pipes, and what can we do and the structure that we can build. We're in discussions with Nippon from Japan, who's been building these kind of structures for years. And we're hoping to deploy some by 2026, 2027. Rigs to Reef, there is over 200 structures that will be decommissioned over the next 30 years. And we are currently in discussions to work with them on using some modeling work, some surface preparation, AI-driven analytics on the best places to put them for faster coral growth. We are talking to people. Can they leave some of it standing? Can we use them for tourism? Can we use them for commercial diving training, coral and ocean energy research? So the answer is yes. Shell, they can easily donate them to us for $1, but we're working with the government now to say, can we change the law to let them leave it in place? So there's ongoing discussions. Faraway project, maybe the earliest we'll hear about this is 10 years later, but we're starting discussions now. If you want to make impact, so there's some things that we're doing in terms of training and awareness. So we're working with a company in Singapore, Terra. We're having SDG workshops, CE workshops as well, fun structured games. We're companies that want to do it a bit more. They want to have some courses. We're running some programs together with UNGC, United Nations Global Compact. Just a couple of minutes. I'm out of time, but a couple more minutes and I'm done. So for ocean innovation, so under Astari, our innovation hub, so we've had Dr. Sol come up from Thailand. So he flies his drone. He uses AI to identify ghost nets. And we've actually done quite just a pilot, very few days in Brunei just to do this, and they've identified plastics, ghost nets. We're doing turtle tracking monitoring as well to launch a turtle program later this year. We've just recently signed an MOU as well with a company, Clean Valley from Canada, where we're using his bioalgae filter. We're setting up a demo unit as well, where we're using wastewater from the RAS, of recirculated aquaculture systems, and we're growing the algae. We are now in discussions about potentially setting up an oyster farm as well. And the whole thing plays into the circular economy really well with the oyster shells, with the black soldier flies, with the sea kelp for other purposes as well, plastic replacements. I've seen some really cool things with Sungai Watch, ocean cleanup, with some of the products that they make out of the plastic. I haven't tried this. I heard it's a very difficult process. So we are looking at how we can turn some of this plastic that we collect into high value items. Not just the general items, but can we work with an art designer to make more value out of them? We are actually in the smart city solution space as well, the innovation hub. This is one of the things we're looking at with the Brunei government, smart garbage collections, so that we have more efficient waste pickup schedules. This is something we're just trying. This is, I think, the last slide over here. So a friend of mine runs a garment factory. That's the only garment factory in Brunei. He has a lot of fabric waste. So we started trying as well. We use glue, probably not the right type of glue. I think Pable might tell me about the better glue that they're using. But you can see that it starts falling apart. So these are all the different things that we're doing in Brunei, from sort of the marine space to other spaces as well now in the sustainable waste space. Oh, we have one more. Okay, maybe one more. So I've actually just been chatting with Vera. We're in the sort of exploring blue carbon projects right now. And it's very interesting. So they've come up with waste credits. I've only started reading about this and started early discussions. But for people looking to scale up, this may potentially be a solution as well. It works exactly the same like carbon credits, but with waste. With collecting it and with upcycling it. So I'm starting to explore this as well for some of our projects. Good. That's it. I think feel free to contact me or reach out to me if you have any suggestions for us. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Wong. So I'm just really surprised at your presentation. Our serial founder covered a lot of the waste in our waste stream, like from biodegradable waste to plastics to different kinds of metals. All right, that's our serial founder for us. So for our next speaker, we have Aryenda Atmadiani. So Aryenda is the founder and CEO of Pable, a company dedicated to fighting the climate crisis through textile waste recycling and applying circular economy principles to protect communities and the planet. So she has led award-winning initiatives. So if you have a serial founder, we have a serial award winner in Indonesia, including the Uniform Disposal Program with Pertamina and BCA, and the Daur Baru Restoration Campaign, engaging over 900 students in forest conservation. Her work has earned her recognition, such as the Women of the Year Award by Her World Magazine and the Best Impact Entrepreneur by Kehati Lestari. So before founding Pable, Aryenda built her communications expertise with ACES Indonesia and Astra International, shaping effective strategies to engage communities. So everyone, please join me in welcoming Aryenda Atmiral.
So after we talking much about plastic, now I'm gonna invite you to talk about textile. So my background is actually, I should put my disclaimer. So I never work as a, in a fashion industry or apparel industry. So I never have any background in about textile waste and how the supply chain goes and working on in this global. But again, like I started this company by zero knowledge. So zero knowledge means it's actually a chance for me to learn something new and also opportunity to at least our company now survive almost like this year. And it is also proven that our small business related with the circular economy is also profitable. So in my presentation, I will explain more about our business model and how we finally can engage with a lot of companies and a lot of collaborators actually in Indonesia. So yeah, we're talking about the textile waste situation in Indonesia. So actually, this is the one and only information that I have. So back in 2019, our Indonesia textile waste is around like 2.3 million tons. So if you imagine like how much is it, even I cannot imagine how much is it. But again, like the fact that 88% of the waste is sent to landfill or burning, and only like 12% is recycled. And the other information you can see here is we categorize the textile waste by two different types. So the first one is pre-consumer waste, or we somehow call it post-industrial waste. It is coming on a small cuts of fabrics that made by the garment and apparel manufacturers. And the rest is related to post-consumer waste, which is it is related with our consumerism behavior, our spending to look beautiful, look great, look cool. It's related with our clothing, our bed sheet, our everything that related with textile in our household. And then if we understand and we do not have any policy or even like action, our textile waste will be predicted gain into like 3.9 million tons by 2030. So this information, at the first time I read in back in 2019 without any experience in textile, and when I started to own my business in Pable and doing some small research related with the all supply chains player in apparel and shoes industry, so I found out that the some information may be right or the numbers may be more than that. So, like for the example, like I visited one of the garment industry in Java Island. So mostly, after I calculated some of the garment industry, they produce like 10,000 tons per month, and also like I also visited one of the facility shoes garment manufacturers in central of Java. They produce like at least 45 tons of cuts waste every month. So the numbers again, like, is it true or not? Or maybe like it is more, maybe more than the data that we have in a public. And again, if we talk about the lifestyle, so Indonesia is always love to creating uniforms. I even like when I was working as a professional, I received like 10 until 20 types of different uniform every years. It's just only the occasion, the event. We love to produce more uniforms. And then this is also the cases that I visited one of the company in north of Jakarta. So they mentioned that they produce 2,000 uniforms every 3 months. And it just wasted after, and they have to reproduce and recreate new uniform because of the standard. So this number is actually like, yeah, it can be more or maybe less than that. But again, we are doing some research. So let's reimagining the textile waste. So we always like question this to our colleague, like, what if every pieces of clothing matter again? Or like, what if every pieces of offcuts matter again? And how if we can create a solution together to create like, you know, renewable materials? So Pable is Indonesia first textile to textile recycling company. We founded by 2020. And our mission is super clearly to embed circularity in the fabrics. And we try to transforming the pre and post consumer waste back into materials. And our vision is to make waste feasible, valuable, and viable. So our business model, we have a tree here. So in Pable, we believe that everything that we wear is actually back to our daily lifestyle. So we created Peptex or Pable Textile. So the suit and also the pants that I wear right now is actually contain of 2 kilos of textile waste, and it's all 100% made by textile waste. And The picture here, you can see like the left picture is actually the blue, many shape of blue of textile waste, and we collected from the garment and also public waste, and we try to, sorting based on the materials, based on the colors, and then we recreate it back into fabrics without doing any coloring process. So as you know that fashion is one of the most polluted industry. Now I know the reason why, because they use a lot of water to creating, the colors. But here we just simply sorting based on the color and we can recreate the same color. And this year we certified by global certification named RTS 100. So this is also part of our verification that Pable is aimed to have an opportunity in a global market. So the second is how we care. So PepMove is part of our services or Pable movement. So we have a lot of collaboration with companies, corporations, schools, university, institution to solve their uniforms problem. And the third is portable. Actually, portable is our movement, our way to share the knowledge, the awareness to the public, so they can like be part of the change maker. Yeah. So how we create the fabrics. So actually, after we collect the materials, we sorted, we created the recycled yarn, and then uh, we send back to the weavers community. So in Indonesia, we have a lot of weavers that crafted by hand, woven by hand, and they're so beautiful. So we collaborate with the weavers community to create it like the deep-rooted craftsmanship, and we acknowledge their art to the world. And actually, we now collaborated with more than 30 weavers around Java Island, and the fabrics that you can see here is actually designed by them, made by them. And I'm really proud of them because this male weavers is actually super important at this time. Why? Because they're not only weavers, but also farmers. So this is the job that we need to be secure and take some attention, because now young generation, even in the village, they don't want to do the weaving activities or being a farmer, because it is not a cool job. They just like prefer to move to the city and doing another thing. But again, like if you can preserve this kind of a legacy and heritage, I believe that we can secure more than just a weaving process, but also the farming and our futures. And this is part of the PepMove services. So we have uniform disposal program. So this is our circular solution for corporate and also school uniforms. And we already collaborate with many of corporations in Indonesia. We collaborate with the state-owned enterprises as Pertamina, Bank Mandiri, and others company. So what is the process? So we collect all the uniform and then we sorting. We take off the button, the zipper, the unrecycled materials, and then we create it into fiber and spinning back into yarn, and we recreate the uniform. So based on this simulation, this is our first UDP project with BCA Bank, the largest bank in Indonesia. So we recycled more than 13 tons of their uniforms, and we already creating new uniforms for 30,000 employees. And currently, we already recycle for 22 tons or equal with 110K pieces of uniform from many corporations. And we also collaborate with schools, with institution. We enlarge our Dropbox activities, and we share also the knowledge. So we hope that the young generation will take this part and get inspired to creating more effective movement. And again, in Pable, we believe with circular economy is not only the methods for us for being believe about the next solution, but the most important thing is the inclusivity. So we have to working hand in hand with many peoples, many players. And in Pable, we collaborate with visionary product makers, we collaborate with designers, we collaborate with architect, with interior designers to create the fabrics more beautiful, more useful, or even like purposeful function and goods. So here, we can transform like the fabrics into many things. And for example, for the sandals, now it's already sold by over like 13 countries around the world. So made from our fabrics, and also the sole is actually a recycled tire. So this is the CE business model that we crafted in Indonesia. And again, this is the way how we communicating with the Gen Z. Gen Z is the highest population in Indonesia, almost 60%. And they even more aware than my generation. I'm millennials. They prefer to sleep earlier, wake up earlier, just to have a healthy lifestyle. And Gen Z is the most eco-conscious generation at this moment. And we know that Gen Z also love to spending anything in a coffee shop. They love to have a meeting in coffee shop in everywhere. So we use that strategy to, communicate our movement. So we collaborate with many coffee shop in Surabaya, in Jakarta, in Bali, in Bandung, in Jogja, in many cities. So we ask them. The barista is actually mostly also Gen Z, except this man. Sorry, but mostly they are Gen Z. And they know that, using apron is so boring. They need something that more fashionable, but also purposeful. So we offered the program, Reform the Uniform, to, take the old apron, we recycle it, and then we giving back the materials, and they can design as you can see, like the uniform even now difference. And this is the strategy. I can say that it is supposedly successful, because now we have a lot of attention from many coffee shop, restaurant, and also another participant from the Gen Z. And they finally like aware like how I can join in this movement, how I can like get the materials, or where I can buy the materials. So even like our Peptex or Pable textile, you can buy only in a meter. So it is not, not bulk order, but just only a meter. You can also be part of this solution. So this is maybe my last two slides. So how we can collaboration and have a same vision related with the Asian and Korea circular synergy. So if we talk about the global textile recycling market, back in 2023, almost 45% the market share is held by the APEC. The numbers is huge. And last year, if we talk about the market share, 60% more is taken by China. And now we predicted that in 2032, the transaction will be 12.8 billion. So I think in APAC, and as a home to major textile manufacturing hubs, and also South Korea in particular has advanced fashion and apparel markets with high consumption cycles. And again, young consumers are increasingly eco-conscious. So they need the solution, they need an option, they need a small part they can like join together with this movement. And growing green collaboration among Asian countries and Korea, I think, is so important. It's not only how we, knowledge transferring or technology transferring. It's more than that. And if we talk about the investment, actually, having a waste management or recycling business is not cheap. Who's agree with me? It's not cheap, right? So yeah, we need more investment, and even us in Pable, just few months ago, we just finished our pre-feasibility study with PwC India, and then we changed our strategy. Now we have a large scale capacity. We can recycle like almost 60,000 tons every month. But now we changed the strategy into the small scale, so we can develop the assets in every city. So more accessible and more make sense for everyone to understand about what we are doing in our circular economy business. And the last is how the Indonesia circular economy roadmap. So textile is part of the primary sector at this moment. So we projected that estimated 164 K green jobs are anticipated to be created, with 75% of it will be filled by women. And finally, yes, Indonesia aims to reduce textile waste by 14% and recycle an additional 8%. So this is actually a good news for us because last year we also appointed by Bappenas, one of our ministry. We got appointed as a role model in a circular economy business. So this is what we're fighting for so far. And finally, maybe my closing statement is again, recycling is not cheap business, but the most expensive investment is actually the awareness. So I hope like all people in this room, we can share this movement together and we can promote the circular economy business together. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Aryenda. So, for our next speaker, so Dhaartshini Senguttuvan is the Advocacy and Public Affairs Manager at the Malaysian Recycling Alliance, where she focuses on developing and implementation strategies towards recovery and recycling of post-consumer packaging, eco-design principles, and recycled content requirements in Malaysia. With extensive experience in public policy research, Dhaartshini fosters strong public-private partnerships towards achieving meaningful policy developments and projects in sustainable waste management. So everyone, let us welcome Dhaartshini Senguttuvan.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Dhaartshini. I am from the Malaysian Recycling Alliance. Hold on. So unfortunately, we're going to go back to plastics now. I think we had very interesting sharings on different materials and solutions for recyclability in different materials. But we're going to look into packaging waste again, and specifically, I'm not going to talk very much about what's happening specifically in Malaysia. I thought we could take a bit of a different approach during my presentation and talk about how holistically EPR policy is, and specifically mandatory EPR policy, can drive the innovation that is necessary in ASEAN towards achieving and unlocking circularity in the region. So I think over the past few days, we've talked at length about the problems that we face in the region. About 53% of waste still goes uncollected in ASEAN, and whatever is collected, a very small percentage of that is recycled. 6 ASEAN countries are the top 10 marine polluters, and as a solution, circular economy actually provides a very big economic opportunity for the region. Why EPR could be the key tool to unlocking circularity in the region is that it introduces transparency in waste management, increases recycling rates, and more importantly and relevant to this discussion, it is that it enables innovation towards sustainable waste management. And I think EPR is sort of the specter that we've been hearing about throughout the past 2 days, right? Everyone kind of talks about EPR as a solution, and I'm going to go specifically into how it enables and unlocks innovation in the region. So EPR creates a secondary raw material market. We talk about whether whether secondary raw materials make business sense. EPR creates a secondary raw material market through minimum recycled content policy. EPR supports circular design development. I think we heard from the South Korean representative yesterday on how we're looking at eco-design policy in South Korea. EPR facilitates investment in recycling and recovery technologies, which is very much needed in the region, right? Every time we're talking about the solutions that are available, it's clear that there's need for infrastructural investments. And finally, and this is potentially my most favorite point, EPR provides an opportunity to reimagine operations of solid waste management actors in the region. And how do we know this? How does MAREA, as an organization and through our research, come to the conclusion that EPR is key to unlocking circularity? We learn from our global leaders, and you know, it's amazing that this is organized by one of the global leaders that we've been learning from. Clearly through EPR, whether it's government-led, in South Korea it's government-led, in Norway the model is an industry-led model. However, it's implemented where there is mandatory EPR, there is clearly an encouragement of packaging innovation, improved traceability, and an increase in recycling rates. So very quickly, I'm going to map what EPR policy looks like in ASEAN. We've already heard from the examples in the Philippines. Obviously, is something that we've been listening to, and Vietnam has enacted mandatory EPR laws as well. Transitionary and review stage, we have Indonesia and Singapore looking at the policy. We also heard about the deposit refund scheme being contemplated by the Singapore government yesterday. So, as you can imagine, in Malaysia, we are under a voluntary system where EPR is not made mandatory, and companies through MAREA, through the Producer Responsibility Organization, are doing these activities voluntarily. And the reason why I'm standing here talking about mandatory EPR is because I know under a voluntary scheme, the outcomes are much less consistent and less impactful in terms of recovery and facilitating recycling. Mandatory EPR schemes allow for proper enforcement incentives and decrease free riding. And I'm going to start with what is potentially the first driver of innovation when it comes to EPR, and that is allowing for the involvement of the private sector in solid waste management. So this is actually a very interesting component of EPR policy, is that it allows the private sector to play a very active role in solid waste management, and it provides the government with potentially the support that it needs in managing the solid waste problem that we have. And as you can see, in terms of driving innovation, industry-led EPR models leverage specific expertise of EPR actors, allowing for tailored and more efficient solutions to recovery and recycling. And the reason is because, as we've heard from industry players, industry is always more agile than government will ever be. Industry will always be able to explore solutions faster and in a more effective manner than government will be able to respond. What the role of the government, however, is that governments can introduce innovation and change within recycling industry. And the problem that ASEAN has currently is that the recycling industry is demonized to an extent, in the sense that recycling industry has had a reputation of dealing with materials that may not necessarily be what they disclose, and there's much needed governance or insight and regulation that is lacking in the industry. And because EPR puts money on the table, governments can introduce, for example, ESG compliance assessments for recyclers to have access to EPR funding. So this is potentially an innovation that EPR can introduce, and it facilitates a problem, or it solves for a problem that the region is facing at the moment. So beyond looking at what is the current situation in ASEAN in terms of who is obliged. So we have brand owners here today in Coca-Cola, and these are typically the companies that are held responsible for their packaging waste, the producers, importers, and brand owners, wholesalers, and retailers. But what is the potential of EPR? Think of this, for example, if you're a converter or you're a bottler, for instance. So say you're a bottler and you sell about 60% of your bottles to a company that's already under EPR legislation, so big brand names. In ASEAN, there is a huge MSME contribution in terms of the economy. So it's likely that 40% of your packaging waste is going to a company or companies that do not come under EPR regulations or under the purview of EPR. With EPR being looking at a holistic packaging value chain, which includes raw material suppliers, converters, fillers, and machine manufacturers, you actually have the benefit of enhanced design for an environment. So you can actually impose through EPR obligations above on upstream actors to consider environmental impacts during the design and material selection phase. And at the same time, if you're able to get insights from actors higher in the supply chain, you improve data collection, because what we're doing now is relying on the closest actors to the consumers to provide information on the packaging. But if you move one step ahead, you're able to have more comprehensive tracking of packaging materials, and there's shared responsibility. Everyone in the supply chain is moving towards the same direction, which is recyclability. So this looks at what's happening or what companies need to do in the region. And I just want to call your attention, for example, to this quadrant, which looks at what companies need to do. Across the region, there are recycling obligations, there are 3R obligations, there are recovery obligations. So clearly companies have like a wide range of things that they may need to do. and MNCs have a problem with understanding regional or national specific responsibilities or obligations. What EPR can do and the innovation that EPR can drive is by mandating and incentivizing recycling, with energy recovery and co-processing only being used for difficult to recycle materials. And so it has the opportunity to facilitate an effective after-use economy. Now, this is my favorite part, which I mentioned earlier, which is how EPR can actually provide for collaboration with state actors. Now, there are three issues that you probably would have come across in the region when it comes to solid waste management actors. Number one, as I mentioned earlier, a huge amount of waste is gone uncollected. That's the first problem that you may experience in the region. The second is, even if the waste is being collected, it's being collected for landfill and not for recycling. And the third problem is that there's clearly a gap between the central government and the local government. So potentially in this current phase, central governments are coming up with very aspirational policies, but it's not necessarily trickling down to the actors on the ground. What EPR provides is for the private sector to provide its financing and solutions to work with waste management actors from transitioning from collection to landfills to collection for recycling. And circularity can only be achieved when waste management companies and EPR is aligned. So you cannot have the industry wanting to collect for recyclables and, the waste management actors that exist collecting for the landfill. So this is how it's able to bridge that gap between the state and the industry, but also between the central and provincial governments. And I think throughout the past 2 days, we've been listening to many actors talk about how important data is, right? And the issue that many people face when it comes to recycling is, are the processes verified? Are the processes actually converting materials in a way that's verified? And how do we know where the waste flow actually is? And this is also another uniquely ASEAN problem. I think many people may not know what the waste flows actually are within their particular communities. And EPR actually introduces standardized reporting and provides for some level of data transparency. I know it's not ideal because, again, there are a lot of working, it's a struggle that we have to change the way of operation. But definitely by introducing some level of reporting in waste management, you increase the level of data transparency. And with EPR, there is high opportunity for integration of smart processes and smart waste management solutions. And as I mentioned, the adoption of ETV or environment technology verification schemes. I mean, private sector wants to know if they're making a claim that X amount of materials have been recycled for their obligations, that this is actually a verified claim, because they do not want this to come back and affect them. So recyclers will then have to adopt environmental technology verification schemes to be compliant with EPR regulations. So now I'm going to talk about how EPR directly funds infrastructural investments. And it's because EPR funding must and should be ring-fenced to only meet objectives under EPR, which are collection and transport, sorting and recycling of materials, and public awareness and inclusion campaigns. And I'm going to shout out Coca-Cola, our next speaker actually, on how EPR fees and funding can be leveraged for private investments to expand recycling infrastructure. And this is their plant in Indonesia. I'm sure we'll be hearing about operations in Philippines. But this is how you can actually use the funding in a way that enables bottle-to-bottle recycling and meets the demand of the private sector. Now we talk about how EPR can accelerate innovation. And I'm going to focus on how, you look at the box in yellow, how well-designed EPR systems can create financial certainty and policy signals that are necessary to de-risk investments in recycling infrastructure. And I'd like to take a case study from the EU as an example here. So, I think a chicken and egg situation that we tend to hear about in recycling is either the producer is not able to find a recycler to be processing specifically difficult to recycle materials like multi-layer packaging and flexible packaging, or we have recyclers who do not want to make investments because there's not enough feedstock, because no one is collecting these materials. So it's a chicken and egg situation because no one wants to collect for the recycling, collect these materials for recycling, and no recycler wants to invest because the materials aren't there. Now, what we see in EU is that where EPR is enacted, there are targeted facilitated circular contractual agreements where producers arrange collection to supply feedstock from recyclers because they know that the recyclers are able to process those materials and they have fixed quantities every month because, again, companies need to collect these materials under EPR. And then recyclers provide the processed recyclates at a preferential rate to producers so they can meet their recycled content requirements. So this is a way in which this can make business sense. So this is where we go back to, can EPR or can CE, for example, make business sense? It can, where EPR policy facilitates investments. And so through this investment, you see that sorting technology, mechanical technology, and chemical recycling have been improved for flexible plastic packaging in the EU, leading to now the industry creating a first integrated mechanical and chemical recycling solution for plastic packaging waste in the region. So very quickly, eco-design as well. EPR fees are usually adjusted based on the recyclability and environmental impact of the particular product. So this is another situation where if there is EPR, it makes business sense for you to invest in designing your product for recyclability. And this is something that I think we heard a bit about from our last speaker on the informal sector potentially. And this is an issue that's also very specific to ASEAN. How do we solve for the large number of informal sector workers? About 60% of recyclable collection in the region comes from the informal sector. So how do we ensure that when we're designing any policy, or specifically when it comes to waste management, that we include the informal sector? EPR is a way in which we can enforce the just transition and include the informal sector, because when there is funding that comes from EPR activities, this can go towards social protection and also funding. For example, say EPR decides that a company that is under an EPR scheme decides that they want to collect flexible packaging material, they will pay a premium to the recycler for the recycler to collect these materials. And naturally, this premium trickles down to the informal sector workers. So it's a potential for the livelihood and for the capacity of informal sector workers to be increased under an EPR system. And this is just some statistics about what the informal sector contributes in terms of the environmental contribution and also the economic contribution. As you can see, on average, 71% of informal sector households depend on the income of that person. So it's critical that when we're designing these policies that we keep in mind how to include the informal sector and how we can ensure their livelihood and professionalize the informal sector within this process. So this is just some examples of innovative regional models, only to show that even where EPR is not made mandatory, and we even heard from these experts throughout the past 2 days how the private sector has already innovated and provided solutions. The thing is, with mandatory EPR, it's only that these solutions will reach scale, because clearly there are limitations that these private sector actors face when they don't have the policy support that's necessary, and EPR will facilitate further innovation in the region. And this is our ask as MAREA, for example, to say that EPR not only can provide innovation in terms of national ambitions, but it's potentially how we can reach some level of alignment as a region and move towards this ASEAN Economic Community ambition that we have. So it only makes sense that since everyone is starting from some form of a level playing field, I mean, we have 2 countries with mandatory EPR and the others now drafting their legislation, it only makes sense that we start in a way that's harmonized to begin with, and we can harmonize in terms of standards. And I think an opportunity that we should really be looking at as a region is recycled content, halal recycled content, for example, halal rPET, and how we can standardize our standards and how we can harmonize at the very inception and become leaders in this space. And also, how can we make this make sense for our companies? Because as we've been discussing, many of PALMSA's members are MAREA's members as well. So how do we make sure that companies and producers find it easy and and it makes business sense for them to be in ASEAN, because EPR is harmonized through fee structures and reporting formats that are harmonized. So this is my call to action. I hope I've convinced everyone that EPR is the cornerstone of ASEAN's circular economy and really can be what unlocks our circularity. EPR should be designed with national realities but aligned regionally. Countries that are looking at voluntary pilots should shift to mandatory EPR and enforceable frameworks as soon as possible. And EPR is the critical way in which we unite the government, industry, and civil society towards working, in a circular direction towards pursuing circular economy. And that's about it. Thank you very much for your time. This is if you would like to find more information about MAREA.
Thank you very much, Dhaartshini. So that's a very comprehensive show of how we can actually effectively and efficiently implement EPR in our respective countries. Thank you very much. So for our next speaker, Attorney Chrissete Agustin. So Attorney Seth is currently the Regulatory and Sustainability Compliance Manager of Coca-Cola, Europacific Aboitiz Philippines Incorporated. She and her department handle the sustainability initiatives and compliance of CCEAP, including recycling and plastic collection. She leads the company's plastic collection program, managing its implementation and expansion. She has spearheaded several sustainability and collection partnerships in and with different organizations and LGUs across the country, expanding and strengthening CCEAP's commitment to the community and the environment. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause again to Attorney Chrissete Agustin.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So it was great to hear from several organizations and companies regarding circularity. But now I'll be offering the perspective of a company or of producer and how we are helping circularity, promote circularity, as well as probably tell you about the gaps in the Philippines EPR affecting us. Okay, so this is our usual slide. So here in Coke, we've been in the country in the Philippines for 113 years. So we sold our first bottle in 1912, and we have a very large footprint here in the country. We're not just the largest beverage company, but we're also operating 18 manufacturing plants all over the country. So at Coke, sustainability is at the core of our operation. So we do have systems in place in our manufacturing plants to ensure that water is efficiently being used. We have clean and renewable energy sources in our operations. We do actually have over 23,000 solar panels installed in some of our plants and distribution centers. Approximately half of our beverage are still in returnable glass bottles. This is actually one of the biggest markets that still uses glass bottles in the world. And we have sustainable packaging innovation. I'll discuss this further in the next slides, as well as our collection program and our investment in a recycling facility. Okay, I think I can. Okay. So just for context for the Philippines, so we still have a huge poverty rate. So it's 52% of Filipinos still consider themselves as poor according to the most recent survey. And we also lack a proper waste management infrastructure. I think this is not just a problem in the Philippines. It was mentioned in the previous speaker. It was mentioned by the previous speaker that we have challenges in collection and recycling, as well as the lack of infrastructure here in the Philippines. So plans on sustainability and environment protection, waste management is not really a priority of our government. Although we recently enacted the EPR, as many Philippine companies would know, the EPR still doesn't address the problems in waste here in the country. So for EPR in the Philippines, just for background of everyone, so we do have an EPR here in the Philippines. It was enacted in 2022. The two types of packaging, main types of packaging covered by the EPR would be rigids and flexibles. So as there are several companies that are considered as obliged enterprises here in the country. Coke is one of them. So as an obliged enterprise, you are required to declare your annual plastic footprint, which covers rigids and flexibles and marketing materials such as tarpaulins. And you have to meet the recovery targets every year, which started 20% in 2023 and is increasing and will increase up to 80% in 2028. One of the most ambitious EPR in the world. We are to register an EPR program and submit an EPR compliance audit report every year. So for an obliged enterprise, the EPR currently only recognizes plastic credits as a mode of compliance. Although these are listed under the law, their use of recycled content, IEC investments, local diversion and recycling, these are modes of compliance under the law, but there is nothing in place to operationalize this. So as an OE, as an obliged enterprise, the government would only recognize you as compliant if you submit plastic credits, if you buy actually plastic credits, and plastic credits can only be obtained through purchase. So there. So for us at Coke, so aside from the returnable glass bottles, our number one packaging material would be PET. So majority of collected PETs in the Philippines is actually processed as PET flakes, and they are exported to other countries for processing, such as textile. And then the estimated annual Philippine PET resins is between 150,000 to 200,000 metric tons. But only a certain percentage of this are actually recycled into PET bottles. So I'll just discuss what Coca-Cola has been doing to advance or to pioneer circular economy. So these are design initiatives that Coca-Cola have done in the past years. We've got rid of plastic straws for Minute Maid and NutriBoost products. We've also phased out single-use sachets in our powder juice drink. So we do acknowledge that sachets are not actually recyclable or ranked very low in recyclability. So we've removed it from our primary packaging material. We've transitioned Sprite from green to clear. Many of you would still remember Sprite being in green bottles. The reason for that is colored PET ranked very low in recyclability, or actually they're not even accepted by other recyclers or other junk shop collectors. But it's cheaper. If they do get bought, they're at very low price compared to PET. We've also launched several beverages made from 100% recycled PET. We're very proud to be the only beverage company in the Philippines that uses rPET, but we do understand why others don't do it because of the additional cost. So rPET is actually 40% more expensive than virgin PET. And I think this was mentioned by one of the speakers before. Doing good is actually not enough. You have to, as businesses, of course, profit is the main agenda, or they are businesses anyway. So we do understand why why the other companies don't use rPET as their primary packaging. So we've also invested in Pet Value Philippines. So Pet Value is the pioneering bottle-to-bottle recycling facility. So as mentioned, our goal here is to establish a circular economy. So the feedstock for Pet Value would be PET bottles and the output would be rPET. These are the same rPET that we use for our products that I mentioned earlier.
This is Pet Value Philippines, a pioneering, state-of-the-art bottle-to-bottle recycling facility. The largest and the first of its kind ever built in the country, ushering in the future for sustainable packaging by creating a circular economy, giving a new, limitless life to post-consumer clear PET plastic bottles, the most widely recycled plastic packaging in the world. Established in General Trias, Cavite, Pet Value Philippines is an industry-leading facility, realized through the joint venture between the world's biggest beverage company and Indorama Ventures, a global leader in packaging solutions, recycling, and cutting-edge technology. This 2.28 billion multi-phased project aims to produce more sustainable packaging innovations, employing in its facilities the safest and most advanced world-class technologies to recycle clear PET plastic bottles through its 8-step process. Pet Value Philippines transforms used PET plastics into new food-grade rPET bottles with a capacity to process up to approximately 2 billion pieces of PET plastic bottles per year. Pet Value Philippines will generate more jobs for Filipinos, promote improved livelihood options in the waste value chain, and create more opportunities downstream, as well as support the circular economy in the Philippines. Closing the loop on packaging in the country, making sure that every bottle matters.
Okay, there. So I've discussed the design initiatives as well as the recycling. So I'll go briefly into collection. So we at Coca-Cola, we do have a collection program, a nationwide collection program called Tapon to Ipon, Basta Klaro Panalo. So tapon means discard, while ipon means collect or earn. So the tagline Basta Klaro Panalo, if it's clear, it's a win because we collect all PET bottles regardless of brand as long as it's clear. So it doesn't have to be Coke. It doesn't have to be a Coke product. It can be any, even competing brands as long as it's clear PET. So we have several execution models for this one. One is where we partner with micro retailers or what we call sari-sari stores here in the country, where they serve as collection hubs. So people can bring in PET bottles. Some would be in exchange for a Coke product. Some would be just for the sari-sari store to earn more. So they get the proceeds of the collected PET bottles, the sales of the collected PET bottles in their sari-sari stores. Again, our goal here is to develop the proper waste disposal of Filipinos. So right now, we are at 170 cities and municipalities across the Philippines. And actually, this is more than 800 store hubs because we plan to expand together with the Coca-Cola brand all over the country. So as mentioned, we have Pet Value, and our goal for our Tapon to Ipon, our collection program, is for all the collected PET bottles to end up in Pet Value. So another is where we partner, where we put up pop-up booths all over the fiestas here in the Philippines. This is again to raise awareness as to the proper disposal and recyclability of PET bottles. So why we chose fiestas? Because high foot traffic, high visibility. So more people will gain knowledge as to the proper disposal of PET bottles. We've also partnered with several customers such as Shell, where we placed collection bins across a few Shell Select stations. We've also partnered with several LGUs here in the Philippines. So what we do is we do large scale collection. So what's being collected in their MRFs, we get it sometimes for free if the LGU allows us to get this for free and haul it to Pet Value. But some LGUs ask for payment from Pet Value because we do understand because they need the proceeds for the upkeep of their MRFs. So as aid to those LGUs that have promised us their PET bottles or have given us PET bottles, we've given them baling machines so that storage of the PET bottles would not be a problem for them, as we would
here the Philippines space is really a problem, especially for the smaller municipalities. So by having a baling machine, they can properly store, as well as it would be logistically easier to haul the PET bottles from the island provinces back to Pet Value. That ends my presentation. I have 30 more seconds. So thank you everyone for listening.
Thank you so much, Attorney Seth. So it's really nice to know that our private sector are really being responsible for the waste generated and making sure that we have a sustainable future without less waste in the future. So our next speaker is Ong Jin Kit, or GK for short. He is a well-respected leader in sustainable business and environmental management in the region. GK currently serves as the Director of Sustainability and Business Development at NV Cares in Singapore, where his team processes over 200 tons of industrial and commercial side streams daily with an impressive 84% recycling rate. His track record includes pioneering Singapore's first carbon credits and the country's first registered CDM project under the UNFCCC. With extensive experience in waste-to-energy, biomass, and circular economy initiatives, GK also shares his expertise as an adjunct lecturer at the Singapore Environment Institute and as a pro bono advocate for Zero Waste Singapore and Catalyst Now. So we're honored to have GK with us today, so please join me in welcoming Ong Jin Kit.
Thank you. What to show? Okay. We'll just run this because I was supposed to do this yesterday. So this is what we do. Just let the movie say for itself. So you can run. 8,000 square meters. So we are industrial recyclers. Our recycling rate is 84%. We actually process milk powder. It's not that it's expired. It's actually good, but it comes from testing quality control. We send it to Malaysia to become animal feed. This is spent grains we collect 30 to 50 tons every day. That's wheat. So we actually use a big excavator to load onto the lorry. So one of these trucks can carry 30 to 40 tons net. This is expired soft drinks. Sometimes they're not actually even expired, alright, for many reasons. We also destroy beer, alright, by the truckload. This is pressurized cans of beer, right? So they all flow down to a pit, and we eventually use that in making our compost. So we have a very high nutrient value and organic value. So that's crushing aluminum cans, alright? Of course, we sell the aluminum to other people, the supply chain, and they would eventually export. We don't export ourselves. That's actually soft drinks throwing away now. So it's very good because a lot of sugar. It's good for composting. Every one of those blocks are about 30 to 40 kilo, and we make our own compost. It's very organic. In front, the yellow stuff is actually sawdust. We mix it with stuff from Coca-Cola. Sorry, cocoa. That's how we make aerobic thermophilic compost. Very nice, 50 to 70 C. Sorry, got distracted by Coke. And we actually sell it by truckload. Every one of that is like 20 tons. We are actually massive. We also do the usual steel and scraps and stuff like that. Like here, we try not to use labor. Actually, in Singapore, this is the rich man. This is yesterday's bread that you never actually got sold. We collect 20 to 30 tons every day. Yeah, it's still fresh. Okay, that's because our expectation is we don't buy yesterday's bread in the supermarket, and they actually empty out at night. So in the morning when you go off, even at 9 a.m., it's new bread. Alright, so we also repack them and send to Malaysia to become animal feed. We do have a Singapore Food Agency license, special license. We have all of our license. All right, so that's the first part. So we have a recycling rate of 84%. That's how we do. I only have 23 people in my whole company, and 13 of them are in the workshop. So you talk about 250 tons a day. That's only by 15 people. So that's why our slogan, our tagline is we massively regenerate resources. So that's part. This one is important. This is the future of distributed small-scale energy.
You can light a fire. You can make power.
This machine is unique. All right. It has no electrical components. It has no electronic. It has not got a battery. It is a fully mechanical energy generator using raw materials, agri-crop, anything organic to generate energy, which is not just electricity. And you'll see later, we have used cow dung, bagasse, everything, so that the farmers don't need to pollute the place. All right, burn, or else if they don't have, they will use a genset. But genset is not good because it only uses and generates electricity. We generate many things. The only electrical is the alternator, right? But this is a 21st century steam engine. That's a patented engine. So that's actually a flywheel. It's all mechanical. This is an external combustion engine, unlike your own car, an internal combustion engine. So it's always good to keep it hot. So these are truck radiators. Yes. And from 20 liters of water, we actually generate superheated steam at 400 C20 bar. That's really superheated. Just from 20 liters. Alright, so, and here, that's it. It's all very mechanical. And who can do mechanical repair? A farmer, a fisherman. He's not gonna get a contractor. He is the contractor. Okay, then that's about it. I think the rest is okay. Alright, so I'll go on to the other slides regarding this project for which I worked in Australia and also in India. So this is actually meant for the base of pyramid people. Fundamentally, there's actually 4 billion people around the world who do not have access to clean and reliable energy. Okay, yeah, that's how. I've put a list here. Then it's actually on the YouTube also, very convenient. Right. So as you look at it, I think you've seen photographs of how many Earths we are consuming. So at the moment, it's like 1.7 Earths. So it's not going to go down very fast eventually. All right. So there are, of course, natural resources, and then some that are never ever going to be repeated because when you burn your oil, that's it. Okay. All right. So right now we have over 4.4 billion. That's 55% of the global population live in cities, and this will grow, as we all know, eventually be 60 or even 70%. In Singapore case, it's like 100%. Okay. So the future is, by 2050, we'll have 68%. And they're all going to concentrate all the demands for energy and resources in one spot. So we already see that happening in big cities in ASEAN. Okay, so one of the things, unfortunately, are not environmental degradation is human activity. It's by definition. So what do you do? Okay, so we generate pollution, industrialization, urbanization, and deforestation. Okay, so we look at how innovation is actually very important. How do you look at things very differently? Okay, so technical innovation, of course, we know about solar and wind power and so forth, but actually there are many ways to do. But one of the ways is sustainable practices, change the practice. What we are doing in NCAS is nothing new. But we don't have any technology, and people visit us and say, yeah, we have zero technology, but we are very good in what we are doing. We cut down a lot of processes. Even our drinks, we squash them and just flow down into the pit. We don't have any pipe work. Very simple. Pipe work needs a pump, right? Okay, so resource management becomes crucial. Okay. So there is, I think, innovative solutions. Even now, solar panels, they are increasing their efficiency, right? 20, 25, 30%. But at the end of the day, they don't last forever. And of course, then there'll be the issue of batteries that definitely don't last even 10 years. So we look at new technology, carbon capture, storage, precision agriculture. This is quite interesting because in Singapore we are actually doing. A lot of this agri technology. We actually develop Temasek rice, and maybe some of you have heard it. And actually, obviously, it's not grown in Singapore, but our technology has grown to do such good things. Then the circular economy becomes very, very crucial. One of the things is that precision fermentation is beginning to catch on in Singapore. That means you grow the cells in big cylinders. That means they don't actually need sunlight. Okay, that's very useful. So you get the bacteria, and then you get your, you develop your meat. It's quite unusual. Why do you want to, get it from cows or something? You can actually produce alternate meat or meatless meat. Okay, and that's like using yeast and bacteria. So that's actually becoming to be quite advanced in Singapore. All right. So again, coming back, 75% of global GHG comes from fossil fuels, and even if you look at like a country like Australia, it is actually not as green. It's still dependent on fossil fuels for the majority of its power. And for Singapore, actually, it's like 95, 97%. Okay, so we look at rising temperature and extreme weather, and it's becoming to be much more severe, especially in a place like the Philippines. Okay, so the thing is that these are all connected to humans. Air pollution, water pollution, land pollution is actually our habits. All right, so obviously we look at solar, they are very, very intermediate. And in fact, Singapore itself is not a sunny place. We're actually 55% cloud cover, so we're actually a cloudy place. Okay, so again, as you can see, there's underdeveloped grid systems. There are places in Philippines that actually have no electricity at all, right? So you imagine, like they have projected solar to grow by 20-fold, and eventually it's growing very, very big. All right, so how do we get rid of, how do we tackle the future problems? Sustainability needs innovation, okay? And if you look at the graphs there, you can see the demand growing very fast, but actually the solar panel price is actually dropping drastically. That's an amazing graph, okay? But then it creates a future problem. Okay. So for example, here, even if you have a diesel genset, who's going to send brand new diesel to you in drums? You're going to get the worst kind of drums because I don't want to send, this kind of good drums to you. Then again, end of the day, solar is DC, right? You have to store it and eventually store it in batteries. What do? Get more batteries. So no matter how efficient your battery is, it's gonna have to be replaced. Okay. So, and as you look at the bottom, many places are trying to recycle batteries, but they are all chemicals. And quite frankly, the value of batteries is very low. It's not worthwhile to export it to somewhere else that can produce it. So what do? Dismantle locally in the villages, and they're not going to have any pollution equipment, to capture. That's it. It goes into the ground. I think you have seen that. Actually, I took most of the photographs. So that's actually the burning of palm oil in Indonesia. And this is actually old palm trees in Malaysia. And these are logs actually from Singapore, actually. Dead palms. This one I took in Tarakan. Forest clearing. It's humongous. It's quite scary. So at the end of the day, you still have all kinds of battery systems. Even the latest, you still need batteries, right? It's something that you cannot run away. So this is the development that will actually help That was the original design, very basic. I worked on this one in India, and then finally, this is what it has become. All right, so this part is actually here. So this is the burning section, this is the boiler, and that's the external part. So what we will do in Singapore is that we will use this for food waste recycling because we only have like 18% recycle rate. So from all the food waste that we have, and the food waste in Singapore, Asian food waste is generally wet. So we dewater it, very simple mechanical device to just filter press or something. We reduce the moisture from 60, 50 to 40, maybe 30%. Then we mix with cardboard, paper, or even plywood. And we have fuel that can be used. So this becomes refuse fuel. So in this case, when you put any kind of waste to this burning, here you get electricity, 240, all right, AC, not DC. You get steam, mechanical action. So there's a flywheel that you can put in and draw power to run your pumps and motors. And that's, of course, hot water. So this will be good for NGOs, a farmer, not just a farmer, a farming community. 4.5 kilowatt is very big, okay? And they all can be used instead of a diesel genset. Okay, so this is actually what we call 21st century steam engine. So this, as I said, the firebox is here, the actual boiler is here. It has its own patent and it has no moving parts. All right, that's a very unusual way of understanding steam power, because when the steam, fundamentally when the steam and water mix goes through this angle, which is actually crucial, 22 degrees, it separates. The water goes downwards, the steam goes off to the superheater, and fundamentally we generate, superheated steam. We're using only 20 liters of water. Okay, so this is inside. For the testing and so forth, we actually have a lot of internal sensors, but obviously when we go into production, that's not going to be installed. That's actually the engine. It's all steel, cast steel actually. And yet, at the end of the day, everything is mechanical. There is no wiring, there's no electrical components. Very, very clear. Okay? The only electrical is like your bicycle. You need a small alternator. This is the one that makes electricity. Comes out to be 240 volts, 50 hertz. All right? So immediately you can use it. All right. So use scenarios, remote communities without grid access. Emergency response. We actually expect a lot of international aid agencies to look for us. They actually want it, but they can't give the down payment because we're an aid agency. So around the world, I think, as you will know, there are actually aid agencies that have budgets in the billions of dollars. So if you have a disaster, how are you going to help the people when your genset is stuck in a warehouse and the roads are flooded? Where is your technician? But this is something that's actually going to be used by the farmer or the fisherman. So he is your technician. He's actually using it every day. Okay? Yeah. So this becomes a waste to energy, a micro hub. Okay, so in this case, you reduce fossil fuel dependency. Not only that, now because your supply chain is going to be so long, all right, and you use local waste, which is all around you, so your fuel is almost no cost. All right, and you have energy security, and obviously we have sustainable agriculture. All right, so this is another way of looking at a solution for many of these man-made problems. All right. And in fact, actually, my tagline is that we will disrupt poverty because you're providing low-cost energy. So the conclusion is that we can solve by innovation, and we can actually start to reduce the fossil fuel use. Because every poor community, more or less, will have to use diesel. Can you imagine if you have a solar-powered water pump? Your power will be used so fast. Okay? I think that's fundamentally it. That's it. All right? I think one of the things that you will ask for, how much does it cost? That's the problem. All right? We're still at the innovation, what we call TRL, Technology Readiness Level 8.4. 9 is like in the field users. So I have used it and tried out in India and Australia. All right. So we trained Indian engineers. But when we went back 2 or 3 months later, it was actually been run by a road sweeper. And that's our intention. It's not meant to be run by any of us here because you know how to read and write. You're too educated. But the guy who knows it is the farmer. He is the mechanic. He is going to be your contractor. He's the guy that will solve it. So right now, our development is such that it's very expensive. It is made by Australian engineers, building 1 or 2 at a time. So we are talking about very expensive. We will plan to look for investors. We only have about 80 investors here, which is fundamentally family and friends, but we need to get more. I hope to bring one into Singapore by the end of this year and showcase it and get more investors. From there, we will grow. Our aim is to have a shop that will make 20 of these per day and eventually have 10,000 units per year. We will bring down the price to Australian dollars about 10,000. Okay? Now, that's expensive compared to a genset. That's about 2 or 3 times. But you will have no diesel cost. So the break even is actually less than 2 years. All right? Yes. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Sir GK. Last but not the least, our last speaker. He is a professional with extensive experience in startup leadership and has successfully managed 2 startups from inception to growth. So his expertise expands across team management and operations, international sales, customer relations, and research and development project management. Ladies and gentlemen, let's give a round of applause to Ki-hyeon Bon.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Ki-hyeon from Thye. It's truly an honor to be here in Philippines, one of my favorite country. And I'm very happy to have the opportunity to speak with all of you all today. And we've had many good sessions over the past 2 days. And now we have finally come to the last one. Congratulations. Yeah. I know you must be very tired, but since this is a final presentation, and I hope you can stay with me and listen a little more. Today, I'd like to talk about a problem we are facing the plastic waste. I will share with you what challenge we are dealing with in how Thye is providing real solution to address this issue. Thank you for attention, and let's get started. So we can find plastic everywhere around us in almost every industry, in every part of our daily lives. And from disposable packaging, electronic device, and plastic containers, shoes, bottles, and clothing, and car. And as mentioned yesterday's speaker, it's hard to imagine living without the plastic. It's simply too convenient, too essential. But there's a problem after use that become one of the most serious environmental challenges we face today. As we all know, plastic is very causing serious environmental problems such as global warming and plastic island and growing mountain of waste. This is a global problem, not just a country's specific problem. But we have to think about it very deep. We can turn this crisis into an opportunity. So how? And I will tell you what we're doing. So we focus on the way to recycling PET, which is highest amount of plastic waste and production. And we are also recyclable as well as polyester and nylon and PLA and combined PET, the other material. And going forward, we plan to expanding our products ranging to including PS, polyester and PU, polyurethane. This is a former mechanical recycling method with many steps, and the steps are sorting by material like LDPE, HDPE, PPPE, PET, and then grinding and cleaning and drying extrusion. So there is a PET chip that was made by the mechanical recycling with many steps and with high costs. And this PET chip can be used to make new products again, such as eco-friendly products and goods. But this mechanical method of recycling PET essentially leads to degradation of physical and color, as it is recycled over and over again. Mechanical recycling cannot handle color PET or color plastic or those with many impurities. So usually clear PET can be recycled. The recycled plastic has unstable quality, and so it cannot be used for high-end products or in mass production. The high-end products mean is related to safety or like film. Also, the more we recycle, and the more the quality and color get lost. In the end, most of it is burned and sent to landfill. And this method has a clear limit. This is not a fundamental solution. And if you followed me so far, and I believe you understand why we need innovative technology and where the real challenges are. Now, I would like to explain what kind of innovative technology Terracle offers. Before we get into our technology, let's take a quick look at PET, what PET is made of. PET plastic is made from two basic chemicals. It is produced by polymerizing TPA and EG. And let me explain this more simply way using bread as an example. And when we make a bread, we usually use a flour and water. And when we make in this example, the bread is PET, the flour is represent TPA, the water represent EG. So it's combining, polymerizing to make a PET. Terracle break PET back down its raw material from the original raw material from the waste plastic into TPA and EG. And this technology called depolymerization. Simply put, you can think about like this. It's like taking expired bread back into fresh flour and water and sell it again. So our main product is TPA. It's called father of plastics, and it is basic chemical materials used a lot of industry. It is used to make a new textile or PET bottles, container, electronics, PET film, tire, and paints and more. So since TPA is used across many industry, the number of customers reaching out to us has been steady increasing. One of the main reason they come to us is because of the growing wave of global regulations. So major country and alliance are now strengthening policies that require to use of recycled material in products manufacturing. So Terracle is currently the company capable of producing this material at largest scale while maintaining the high quality. That's why many global companies are now seeking to us to work with us. So our strengths are short reaction time and low operating temperature and just no pressure for process. And this allow us to achieve both economic and environmental sustainability. Additionally, we commercialize by the byproducts generating during our process. And one of our strengths is pre-treatment. We don't have to salting or washing, just shred it and put in our process, and then it will be reaction only PET and polyester. And compared to virgin TPA, the production and landfill or incineration, our technology significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions. Our capacity is 4,000 tons per year. It's not a lab scale or pilot scales. So we conduct POCs for each items and customize the products based on customer feedback, and we utilize waste from our customer. For example, automotive waste from the Hyundai Group, and such as airbag and car seat and seatbelt, and electronic waste from the Samsung Electronic, and PET film from the LG display to create recycled materials. So we've created the following value chain with our customers. So now I would like to explain Terracle's value chain, which we have built in collaboration with a global company. So Terracle collects waste in various fields from and charge waste processing fee for set to us disposal fee. And through chemical recycling, we produce a TPA and EG and sell these products to chemical companies. The chemical companies then supply their products to end user. And in addition, we either receive industrial waste generated during manufacture, or collect post-consumer waste after the products have been used, and bring that waste back into our recycling system. It's called the closed loop. So Terracle is planning to expanding globally, not only to address waste issues in Korea, but also to contribute to solving global waste problem. So before making our first international entry, we have actively participating like IR events or exhibition and seminars to carefully study and investment potential country for expansions. So far, we have assessed the local demand in Spain and Vietnam, Dubai and UK and German and Taiwan, Sweden, Finland and the United States, and Japan, in India and South Africa. So we participate in the KSE program to build the infrastructure in collaboration with the government and industry. And we have a established based hub in Vietnam and Sweden. And starting from 2025, we're planning to design waste management system for developing country through the ODA projects with KOICA. So if you wish to implement our technology and system in your country or in your area, so please feel free to propose it anytime and anywhere. We are fully committed to doing our best to fight climate change. So based on this local market research, we plan to select target country and purpose international expansion, and we aim to either transfer our technology or develop small and modular recycling units, and that can be developed and scaled within each country. So we will prove our technology in Korea for the mass production, and then aim to expanding the overseas, targeting the Asian regions. So we incorporated in 2021 and just raised $7.6 million in Series A funding, and we currently have a team of 24 members right now. And since December, not since December 2 years ago, and we have been commercialized with the world first mass production by ton. And we currently operate two plants. The one is Incheon for the pilot test, and the other one is Yeosu that has validates mass production at a scale of 1 ton per day. And following this, we are now constructing new plants with a tenfold scale up capable of processing 10 tons per day. So in 2023, and the global plastic recycling rate is just 9%. That's extremely low. But Terco can achieve a recycling rate of 97% and starting right now. Infinity Plastic, zero pollution by the Terco for the world. Thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. So for the much awaited question and answer portion, so can we please have our speakers again up here? So should we have the chairs here? So the first question for now would be, if you were given a chance to either remove one thing or add one thing in your specific sector to for your solution to be met, so what would it be?
I touched on this during my presentation as well. I think specifically within ASEAN is the nature of existing solid waste management practices that tends to be a very big challenge when it comes to introducing more innovation. And so that's why I looked at it from a policy perspective rather than a singular solution perspective, because where policies like EPR are introduced, it forces the existing practices to be re-examined, and in many instances it introduces through EPR, for example, private sector expertise and innovation in a systematic way that forces the existing concessionaires local government actors to build capacity to innovate and to follow the tide. So it's not just the tide of plastics that's coming in, it has to be the tide of innovation that is embraced by the local government. Yeah.
Nice. Thank you so much.
Mine is very simple. For this development, quite frankly, is funding. And the reason is because we are coming up with something quite different. Okay? We are actually simplifying technology. Okay? And a lot of people have a problem. What is the problem? How to understand that we're actually simplifying to extent that we don't need electronics or electrical component. So they don't get around it. Therefore, how can you convince your boss to invest money in our company? It's a very unusual problem. But we do have small investors, family and friends, and we hope to, with this unit that comes to Singapore, and we'll get investors and grow. So we are quite slow growing because we've been I think the word is self-suffering actually. Okay, it's funding. Thank you. Oh, sorry.
No, I really agree with your opinion because we are a startup and we cooperating our company for 4 years. But the last year we very lucky, so we fundraising about $7 million, but it's very it's not enough for us because we have to building the factory, and it's a chemical factory, so we have to pay for the building the factory and process and to buy the machines. It's not easy, yeah. But we think someone have to do that, and someone have to solve this problem. So I want to growing the fundraising all around the world.
Can I get a quick recap on the question? Sorry. Yes, I think that the three of us who joined in. Yes.
All right. So the question is, in your specific specialization in the waste management sector, so if you have a wish or you're given an opportunity to remove or add something in your specific specialization or in the waste sector, so what would it be and why?
I wish. That's always very difficult to answer. I think everyone sort of talked about funding. Is that right? That's what I heard. Yes. Well, I guess that is often one of the key things. I think really maybe it's a mindset, right? Everyone just sort of looks at waste as an unsolvable problem. And when you think something is unsolvable, everyone is very apathetic, right? They don't really care. So if there's something I could change, it might be that we wanna show hope, right? If people hope and believe it can change, that's when you start to see people start to join in. And the waste, it doesn't look very nice, right? When you have a nice cause, if you're trying to save turtles, everyone's happy to support you. But you're trying to remove waste or look at waste, where you take photos of it, nobody wants to look at it, right? So it's not a very attractive cause. So if there was a more attractive way for waste to be attractive, I would love that because it's easier to sell that project. Okay.
Agree with that. Super. Would you like to go next?
Oh, okay, we're not a waste management company, but from an obliged enterprise perspective, I think I've mentioned it earlier. There are different ways of compliance with under the EPR here in the Philippines, but it has not yet been operationalized. For example, the use of recycled content in packaging. It's very hard for entities or investments like Pet Value to generate money because there are not enough buyers. So right now, as I think aside from Coke, only a few companies, not even beverage companies, buy from Pet Value. So having a regulation that encourages use of rPET so that companies would rather use recycled content in their packaging, would rather spend their money buying recycled content for their packaging material rather than spend it on buying plastic credits for them to comply with the EBR would be very much welcome.
Yeah, so it's sort of like a market or a use.
Yes, because right now since again, if you have budget as a company, but using recycled content is more expensive, so you would rather just comply. Of course, your main priority is to comply under the law, so you'd rather spend the money purchasing credits to comply under the EBR rather than spend it on recycled content or R&D for a better packaging material. So it's just additional cost for companies to use rPET. So if the government can encourage use of rPET as a means of compliance instead of the current system that we have now.
That's a very good answer. So let's go to
Yes. Yeah, I also agree with my colleagues here. Like maybe the investment is also the one that I wish. But again, like before the investment is, maybe the question is who's the market? Who's gonna absorb all the innovations, all the recycled product? Because we need to understand that recycled materials is something that perfect imperfections. If you're comparing like with virgin products or virgin materials, is difficult to compare. Even like apple to apple is also difficult. But again, like the responsibility to create the sustainable market at this time, I think it should be have a responsibility by also our government. Like I always mention this kind of thing to our government as well. Like if they put the green procurement and the subject, one of the subject they dedicated for the recycled materials, how many ways we can recycle, like how many market we can finally can touch, and how many economic valuable that we can create in because of the as simple as a green procurement. So I think that's, if I may wish again in this session, I wish that in Indonesia we can create more credible green procurement so it can be more have a access and more have a chance to a company like us even into the investment or another opportunity.
It's very nice to know that there are so many ways to promote solution to our waste problem. And there are many aside from funding, although funding is very important, as also it's important for mindset and policy that would support our solutions. So now we would like to place the all right. So we have a delegate that has a question.
I have a few questions. First, for Coke. Uh, you mentioned about you mentioned about replacing the sachet of your juice powder. So, what have you replaced it to?
We've stopped production of our powder juice drink. So we stopped in 2023, if I remember correctly. So the brand is shelf, we didn't sell it. So unless we have a more sustainable packaging material for powder juice drink, then we would resume production.
Oh, okay. So we just started production.
Yes, stopped altogether.
Okay. And another question for Mr. Gyeon of Korea, Terakel. You mentioned about the chemical recycling.
Yes.
What's the feedstock of your chemical recycling?
It's a lot of feedstock and including PET. For example, PET films or PET bottles and PET containers and polyester like clothes. And those are our feedstock, but we focusing the PIR, the industrial waste.
Oh,
Yeah.
PIR. So after the chemical recycling, what is your end chemical,
And products.
end product?
Yeah, it's a TPA. That's a white powder. It's basic chemicals. It's raw material from the plastic.
So that's a feedstock for the petrochemical plant.
Not a petrochemical. It's for the manufacturing plastic.
Oh, yeah, okay. Okay.
The pyrolysis is make a energy or oil or like that and resource, but we can produce like products, basic chemicals, so we can selling to the new chemical companies so they can make new products. So it's yeah, green ingredients. Yeah, it is.
Raw ingredient. Is a raw ingredient. Come to Singapore. Our plastic recycling is only 5%. Actually, it's getting lower and lower. It's bad.
And actually, the PET the materials cannot pyrolysis. Pyrolysis it's only operating PP and PE. Yeah, it's harder to pyrolysis of PET.
Okay. My last question for Mr. Ong of Singapore. You mentioned about no electronics in the, I think it's copper.
There's no electronics. Yeah.
How do you control the RPM of the alternator?
There is actually a mechanical governor built into the flywheel. So if you know, like 150 years ago, your steam engine was controlled by a governor, which fundamentally spins around vertically. All right. So when it actually set and it goes down, you can actually get quite a fair amount of control because that's governed linkage-wise mechanically. It's mechanically controlled. You don't see that because it's hidden inside the flywheel hub. All right. It runs at 600 RPM.
Is the electricity produced have a stable frequency?
It is actually 240 volts, 50 hertz. But that's really up to the alternator. So if you want to change it to 110, 60 hertz, it can be done.
With an AVR?
Sorry?
With an AVR? Is it with an AVR to change the voltage?
No, it's just a different kind of winding. Okay. It's actually up to the alternator, much as like what people have for your bicycle.
All right. So apologies. So actually, we don't have any more time for the Q&A, but we do have a networking session and coffee available outside. So, if you would like, we can continue the Q&A outside for if you want. So, but with coffee this time. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thank you so much to our speakers for this session. Thank you everyone for your questions.